Let us join in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag. To the republic. Greet your neighbor. May I ask that we observe a moment of silence for fellow Rotarian Daniel Stephen Webster. Fair winds and following seas. Our reflection today will be offered by Beth Weaver.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we're grateful for the food that nourishes. We're grateful for the laughter and friendships. We're grateful for moments of quiet reflection and peace. We're grateful for the commitment to our community. We're grateful for those who put service above self. May it all be to your glory. Amen.
This is Ron Holman's daughter, Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Holtman Stevens. I participated in the Rotary Exchange Program as an exchange student in 1983-84 to Bogota, Colombia. I'm eternally grateful to the Wooster Rotary Club for this opportunity, and it was absolutely one of the most impactful and formative experiences of my life. I absolutely would not have had the career opportunities that I've had over the years. I would not be fluent in Spanish had it not been for this experience. But I think probably the most important thing for me is that living in another country with another family allows you to step outside of your own comfort zone and your cultural context, and you are able to begin to view the world from a different cultural lens than what you grew up with. I think as far as the Rotarians' mission to promote peace and service to others, this is absolutely something that develops those kind of ideals in young people. Whether you are considering hosting an exchange student in your own family, or you are considering becoming an exchange student, I highly recommend the experience. I would not have changed it for the world, and I would not be the person that I am today had it not been for that experience. I highly recommend it, and go for it. Thank you.
Thanks to Amy for submitting that for us. I guess next will be Secretary Kim and the Secretary's report.
Substitute secretary. I'm filling in for Lynn today. Matt Martin has our traveling microphone, and we have a couple guests. We'll start with Seth.
My guest today is my son, Jack.
And Drew Paul has a guest.
Actually, I have two.
Okay.
These are two of my best friends from childhood, Jim Wire, Mark Newcomb.
Welcome. We have the guest table back there. Nice. Welcome, welcome. House President Brent Rice has asked us to remind the folks there is a youth exchange committee meeting immediately following our meeting here today for a few minutes. So if you are on the youth exchange committee, please hang around for a few minutes. And that's it for the secretary's report.
Well, welcome to our guests. We hope you enjoyed today's program in the Fellowship of Wooster Rotary. We hope to see you again in future meetings. We do have a classification speech talk, and that would be Drew Paul.
No worries. Just so I don't have to look at myself while I'm doing this, that's fine. Well, good afternoon, folks. My name is Drew Paul. For those of you that I have not met before, I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you, and I look forward to getting to know me. Guess I'll just say this. It's interesting, you walk around and you see the badges and it says service above self, and then you're asked to give a talk about yourself. So anyway, lunch was good. Thank you to the ladies in the back who always take care of us. But I'm gonna ask everybody, because you know, the food sits in your stomach. Have you ever noticed that? Everybody stand up for a second. Stand up for a second. Let's get going. And you know, just kind of work it out and make sure that we're not too sleepy, because I don't want to put anybody to sleep with my classification talk. So anyway, thank you very much. Okay. I moved to Worcester in 1976, and you'll see on the slides on either side, there is a picture of the St. Mary's flagged football team that won the championships in 1979, 80, and 81. We're not shy about that. And I was number 17 in this picture in the corner. And three of my best friends to this day were on that team. It's a privilege to grow up in Worcester, and I don't think that all of us always realize that. I'm a proud member of the class of 1988 in Worcester High School. Again, it's special to go to Worcester High School. Worcester High School afforded a lot of opportunities to people like me that not everybody gets. Some of you may remember me from working out at the racket club and playing tennis. I played tennis for the high school. But two things that happened to me in high school that were very formative that I think are appropriate to talk about today. I participated in student foreign exchange, not through Rotary. I was actually a people-to-people student ambassador. I had the opportunity in 1986 to visit Europe and visit 7 countries during that time. And while we were there, we worked on getting to know foreigners. I mean, that makes sense, right? We were, the idea, Dwight Eisenhower started people to people, sent students abroad so that we could begin to develop relationships with the countries around us. And during that time, I got to stay in 3 different homes while I was abroad. And the towns that I went to, Gothenburg, Sweden, Fredericia, Denmark, and Rugby, England. If somebody had asked me before I left if I knew anything about Gothenburg, Sweden, or Fredericia, Denmark, or Rugby, England, I would have said I know nothing about any of the 3. And I think everybody in here maybe can understand that, because the people that come to Worcester through our exchange program don't necessarily know a lot about Worcester, Ohio either. But having been on the receiving end of being placed in those homes, I fully understand the value and why we do what we do when it comes to student exchange. When I got to Gothenburg, Sweden, I was placed in a home with a Swedish Davis Cup tennis player. You can't imagine how special that made me feel. And I've noticed when we place our students in homes that Brent works very hard to make sure is appropriate, we work very hard to make sure that they're good matches for our students. When I went to Fredericia, Denmark, I got there on July 4th. And that evening, my homestay parents took me down to a park with all these cannons and stuff, and they just started lighting off fireworks. So here I was, 4th of July, and guess what? We're celebrating the 4th of July with the Danes in Denmark. Turns out, in 1863, the Danes had a very big battle with the Germans, and they won on July 4th, 1863. So they love it when Americans visit during the 4th of July. Finally, Rugby England was my last homestay, and I had a homestay mother that reminds me of one of the mothers that took care of one of my foreign exchange students' friends. My homestay mother took me not only to Rugby, but to Coventry, to Birmingham, to Manchester, to Stratford-on-Avon in a 5-day whirlwind trip when I was in England. So it's really important to understand that when people get to these small towns, they learn about the small towns, they learn about the country, but you really learn about how people are and how people live. And that's one of the most important things I think we do in Rotary. I've also been on the receiving end of having relationships with foreign exchange students. In 1988, I went to the Coming Home Dance with Maria Blitch, a Rotary exchange student from Sweden. Maria came, she stayed with Dr. Mather, if I remember correctly, and the Chickenetties. She was a tennis player. She was a very good tennis player. And we had a great time the year that we got to know each other. So wouldn't have had those opportunities had I not gone to Wooster High School. After high school, I attended the University of Dayton. I started in 1988. You'll notice I graduated in 2009. 21 years of spring breaks. Can't beat that. Played tennis when I first got there. I ended up dropping out of school, but it's important to finish what you start. And in 2007, I made the decision that 108 credit hours was a waste not to have a degree with, and I went back and finished. So, and I'm thankful for Dayton for allowing me to do that. These are my parents, Sarah and Dave. Some of you may have done business with them in the past. This is them at Parents' Day weekend in Dayton, which is a huge party. I've been working on my MBA at about the same speed I worked on my undergraduate degree through Kogod School of Business at American University. Learned a lot. I can say that I've been a lot more academically proficient in this go-around. I have 30 years of business experience in the financial services industry. 20 years of that experience came in leadership, where I built staffs, I recruited my people, I ran programs, and I learned quite a bit in my 20 years in corporate America. And do you know what the best part of that 20 years of training was? It taught me how to run my own business. So I'm self-employed now. In the words of composer Jeffrey Mack and immortalized by the legendary Johnny Cash, from working 20 years in corporate America, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. And these are just a list of places where I've worked over those 20 years, and it's pretty extensive, but I've seen a lot of the country, and I've seen the diversity that goes on, not only worldwide, but here within our own borders. There's a lot of different ways to do things, and there's a lot of good ideas to be shared. And I think that's one of the things that Rotary does a great job of sharing among its chapters. Life happened in 2019. How many, I don't even need to ask for hands, all of us were affected in 2019 through 2021 due to COVID. I showed you a picture of my parents before. My father passed away in 2005. My wife had passed away before COVID. And I found myself 1,500 miles away in Tampa, Florida. And I thought, what happens as an only child if my mother goes into the hospital because she gets COVID? I can't get a gas tank or a flight home. It was a pretty deep question, and it really bothered me. I knew I'd be a caged animal. At that point, I made the decision. Mom wasn't moving to Florida. It was time for me to come back home. So I've come full circle, and I've come back to Worcester. I started my own business after a couple ventures that didn't work out. I'm a retirement planner by vocation. I help people, in most simplest terms, I help people prepare for their retirement and then have the income that they need to maintain their lifestyle. I'm a big believer in giving back to the community that gives to you. I mentioned that I started my grade school at St. Mary's. I now serve on the finance committee at St. Mary's Parish, in addition to being a member of the Pastoral Council. I also do volunteer work in the community, and my 3-year stint as treasurer with the Boys and Girls Club will be coming to an end at the end of this month. And for those of you who are looking for wonderful organizations to donate to, I would encourage you to donate to the Boys and Girls Club directly. The Boys and Girls Club provides before school programs, after school programs, and summer programs for the youth in Worcester, and the need is great. And John and his team do a wonderful job of that. So it's been an honor to work with them. Some of you may have seen my signs around town. Some of you may have even voted for me, but I recently ran in the primary for Worcester City Council at large. I won. So thank you very much for your support. I look forward to serving the community in this capacity and helping leave things better than what I got. And I've got a pretty good foundation from which to start with and a great team to work with downtown. Why join Rotary? As a youngster growing up in Worcester and spending a lot of time out at the Racquet Club, there were a lot of Rotarians who played tennis, and these were people that I looked up to. Steve Shapiro, Arun Mather, Burwell Myers, Dave Taylor, people that came out regularly, and they would talk about Rotary business from time to time, and I would hear about that, and I would ask my mom one time, what's Rotary? She's like, it's a really important service organization in town. So I had a really good impression of Rotary, and then I got to know some of the foreign exchange students. That really gave me an impression. So I thought that's a group of people that I'd like to be associated with. When we take a look at Rotary's mission statement, we provide service to others, promote integrity, and advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through our fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. I felt that the Rotary mission statement matched well with my values. Finally, I wanted an opportunity to work with the right organization to give back to the community and to the world at large. And Rotary offered all of that. We talk about the beginning of coming full circle. I go back to the picture of the football team here. And when we talk about coming full circle, moving back to Worcester, I'm happy to say that my 3 best friends to this day are in this picture. All 4 of us at some point moved out of Worcester, and all 4 of us chose to move back. And when we talk about coming full circle, we had a Christmas in July party a couple of years ago. This is a picture of 4 of us from that picture. And I'd like to thank 2 of my best friends in the world, Jim Wire and Mark Newcomer, for coming here and offering me moral support while I spoke to all of you. It's a little intimidating to get up here and talk to all of you. And I thought it was a great opportunity to expose them to Rotary. So with that, I appreciate your time and your attention. It's a privilege to be here today, and I look forward to getting to know and working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Today's speaker will be introduced by Andy Michael.
Very good, thank you, Alan. Some of you have probably heard of the new invasive insect, the spotted lanternfly. Some of you may have even heard that it's in Ohio, but probably a lot of us, including myself, don't really know how close it is to having a really big impact in Wayne County and in Worcester. And from all the stories we hear on media, it's how it's attacking people in New York and Pennsylvania or whatever. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to have 2 of our local experts, Dr. Ashley Leach, who is an assistant professor on the Wooster campus in the entomology department, focusing on specialty crops, and Frank Becker, our agriculture and natural resources county extension educator from in Wayne County. They are our experts. They've been doing a lot of research, and they are really helping us prepare for this new invasive insect. So Ashley, I think, is going to start us off. So thank you both for attending. I'm looking forward to your presentations.
Well, thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that introduction. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time providing a primer on spotted lanternfly and kind of touch briefly about some of the extension and research efforts we have ongoing at Ohio State University. So, how many of you, show of hands, have heard of spotted lanternfly? Before, I should say, Andy said, hey, you're going to learn about spotted lanternfly today. Okay, and I'm not surprised by that number of hands because it doesn't take a whole lot to see news articles like what you see on the screen here, where a lot of times you'll see media use really inflammatory language, out of control. And to Andy's point, there's also like rumors floating around like spotted lanternfly is going to come after us, which is not the case. This is purely a plant bug. But what I hope to do today is kind of control or curb some of the news media frenzy. Because the reality is you can see articles like this and you will also see videos similar to this. And deeply apologetic to those who are squirmy. I know we're after lunch and you're seeing all these disgusting bugs. But this is a video from Pennsylvania. This is a homeowner that went out to their tree in their backyard and they're seeing thousands of spotted lanternflies coating that tree. So let's talk about what this bug is, and hopefully you'll also get a sense of what this bug isn't as well. So spotted lanternfly is a plant hopper insect. For those bug nerds in the room, it might just be me and Andy and Frank, but this is a fulgorid insect. So it's basically, to put it overly simplistically, it's a giant aphid. So a giant aphid, I actually have some adults, if you want to see what they actually look like, in that box there, happy for you to take a peek, but they're about 2 to 2.5 inches for the adult form. This is a big insect. This is an animal that's originally from Asia, and it's been in the United States since 2012. We know that it's been invasive in other places of the United States, but why do we care about it right now, today? Well, it's been in Ohio since 2020, and it has steadily spread westward from its original point in Pennsylvania to where we are today. Now we know there's actually sightings and infestations as far west as Illinois. So I'm newish in this position. I've been here since January of 22. And my stakeholders were very, very keen on me studying this insect. And I'm not surprised because this will show you kind of the rapid spread of spotted lanternfly within this time of 22 to where we are today. 2 counties in 22 had active infestations of spotted lanternfly. Now 23, we've got 4 counties of active infestations. Now where we are today, we're dealing with 12 counties of active infestations of spotted lanternfly. We just heard about 2 weeks ago that that's actually going to be expanded to about 16 counties because we do have active infestations. They just haven't made it up on this New York State IPM website. So my point in saying all of this is this pest is actively colonizing Ohio, and we know that it has some particularly large strongholds in these metropolitan areas, things like Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo. We have a lot of spotted lanternflies, and they are rapidly moving all over the state, including Wayne County. So Frank will talk a little bit about some of the extension efforts we have locally. And this is largely following predictions. If we look at some of these top models that shows you the probability of spotted lanternfly spread, what you see is by 2030, 2027, the entire state is supposed to be covered in spotted lanternfly. And in 2050, we're actually seeing colonization all the way out into California. So why is this a problem? Why would a specialty crop entomologist who just studies fruits and vegetables be worried about this bug? And that's because spotted lanternfly's biggest agricultural impact is poised to be in reproduction. So this is actually showing you some really up close personal assays that were being conducted in Pennsylvania, kind of looking at some of these long-term impacts, and I'll actually share some data from this study. It is not my own study, but sharing some kind of impacts you might expect from spotted lanternfly. So Early on, my sister and I in Pennsylvania actually collaborated on a couple of papers, and what we saw is that as we increase our densities of spotted lanternfly on grapevines, we see a steady yield loss. So that's what you're seeing here, is this negative relationship. As we increase SLF densities, we decrease yield. Not necessarily surprising. And in some of these cases, we're talking 400 spotted lanternfly adults coating these grapevines. This is something that our Ohio grape growers do not want. Now, we also know from some of these controlled experiments that we can get reductions in Brix. That's a big problem for wine production, as well as some physiological consequences of feeding, such as reduced nitrogen concentration. So what we actually see now, I think it was about a month ago, they just published a paper that shows that all of this is actually resulting in lower quality wine. So for any of you who enjoy a bottle of wine at night or a glass of wine at night, you know that this spotted lanternfly is out to take it from you. And you may or may not be surprised to learn that Ohio is actually the #6 wine producer in the United States. That does mean we import a lot of grape juice to make our wine, but we also have over 1,200 acres of vineyards across the state. We also have programs that support new plantings of grapes. So this is a meaningful specialty crop to the state. It's actually over $2 billion in value. So this is something that we want to protect. This is a commodity we're very concerned about. So we are not, I want to make this pretty clear. We are not managing for spotted lanternfly in vineyards yet. That's a good thing, right? We are in the detection phase. Do we have spotted lanternfly so that we can then end up managing that pest? So these are different ways that we can monitor spotted lanternfly. We can scout in person, look for the bug with our own eyes. We can use passive approaches where we're taking advantage of the fact that spotted lanternfly likes to crawl up trees. And that's where we might use something like a circle trap or a sticky trap. And then even more interestingly is using something like environmental DNA. And this is a project we have in active collaboration with Dr. Andy Michael, where it's not dissimilar from a forensic files episode. If you guys are into that, I'm a crime junkie, and it's basically a crime scene, if you will. So instead of the crime scene being something where we have criminals, this is our vineyard. And so now what we're doing is we're swabbing that vineyard for spotted lanternfly DNA, not dissimilar from the forensic files episode. So the reason why spotted lanternfly is such a good candidate for environmental DNA is because of this. And once again, I'm sorry, we just ate and I'm showing you above pooping. But what's the PC word right now? Honeydew. I'm so sorry. Honeydew. So the copious production of honeydew. And that's basically what we're swabbing for. This is an animal that's producing lots and lots of honeydew. So what we're able to do when we swab our vineyard is look for the presence of spotted lanternfly from this kind of honeydew that they're leaving behind. So just to give you a tidbit of what we're doing at Ohio State University, here's a research article or so research project we just finished up where we looked at the comparison of in-person scouting and environmental DNA. And the idea is that we thought eDNA would outperform in-person scouting because it might be more sensitive and a higher ability for us to detect those colonizations earlier on. And we chose Cleveland as our study system because really early on in colonization at that point, because this was a study that was done from 2022 to 24. We partnered with Cleveland Metro Parks and surveyed over 66 sites for spotted lanternfly. So this was work that was done by David Eric Kelsey, who's the first author here. But the idea here is we're taking paint rollers and we're rolling surfaces that we might have seen spotted lanternfly on, or we might think spotted lanternfly would hang out there, and essentially looking for spotted lanternfly eDNA. And what we see is that eDNA did outperform in-person scouting over 2 years. So we're seeing more spotted lanternfly detections using this approach. And that was really promising for the Metro Park system because now they have an indication that spotted lanternfly is there and mount a response. So what we're seeing is a 2 to 3 times higher likelihood of actually detecting this pest in the landscape. But once again, I know my lane, I'm a specialty crop entomologist, not a landscape ecologist. So the question to ask is, how does this, what is the meaning to our stakeholders, our great stakeholders? And the question we wanted to ask is, how can we leverage this data set to understand how spotted lanternfly potentially colonizes new landscapes? And so that's also another, I can't get into that today, but that's another thing that we also looked at, is leveraging this larger data set to understand some of these metrics. And ultimately, how do we prepare growers for spotted lanternfly? So we've been sampling at vineyards since I started my position in 22. And we've seen a steady number of stakeholders actually increase their interest in monitoring for spotted lanternfly. We're using eDNA, circle tracks, and in-person scouting. In 2025, we have 60 vineyards that we're going to be at scouting for spotted lanternfly. And what we've seen is very few vineyards. We actually only have one that has a spotted lanternfly infestation. So we're interested in understanding how different factors might contribute to infestations, things like wooded edges. This is a bug that can colonize over 300 different plant hosts, in addition to human-mediated travel. So think of things like rail lines, parking lots. Those are things that are going to contribute to spotted lanternfly spread. So this is nice and everything, but we can't swab the state, right? We can't go around swabbing every little thing. That's not going to help us. It's also really, really expensive. What's really important is to make sure that we can educate our stakeholders so that they can mount a response. So more eyes out in the state is going to help us. But this is the paradox, I like to say, of invasive species education. How do we train people on something that isn't here yet? How do they know what to look for? And that's where 3D printing comes in as a really powerful tool. Once again, collaboration with Dr. Andy Michael, where we're looking at developing 3D printed extension tools. So things like, I actually pass them around, so you guys should have an example of these 3D printed extension tools on your table. This is showing you kind of a replica of a 3D printed egg mass for spotted lanternfly. And this is developed by Saranza Basnagala in addition to Olivia Lane. And this gives us an opportunity to train people on spotted lanternfly without the bug being in their backyard. The reason why we're targeting this life stage is because it helps slow population growth, right? But in addition, it's really hard to discern from the landscape. So this allows us to actually create a tool that's going to be used in a sense that they can actually go out and scout for this, rather than the adult, which is incredibly showy in comparison. So here are some of the prototypes that you can see here of these different 3D printed egg masses. We have also paired these prototypes with different types of experiential learning opportunities, where we actually go ahead and we glue these egg masses out in the landscape and have people scout for them. And they really like this, actually. I know it sounds crazy, but we go and we take these pieces of plastic that look like egg masses, put them out in the woodlot and have people go and try to find them. So we get people already engaged in what spotted lanternfly scouting looks like and get used to this past. We see that people learn from this program and plan to use the information from this program. And I think most importantly, we see knowledge gains, right? That's what we want. We want the people to walk away knowing what adults look like, being able to identify egg masses, and even the signs and symptoms associated with spotted lanternfly. So things like sooty mold or honeybee production. So with that, I hopefully have ultimately kind of showing some of where we're headed with spotted lanternfly in Ohio. It's actively moving across the state and trying to understand how we can monitor and prepare our stakeholders.
So I'm just gonna basically, piggyback on what Ashley just talked about, but from a little bit different perspective. So for those who maybe are a little unfamiliar with extension, land-grant universities, have 3 pillars: teaching, research, and education. And when we think about the research and education, you think about ATI, OARDC, and then the Worcester campus. And then the teaching component is really that public facing component of basically somebody in every county around the state who is that hands and feet of the university to be boots on the ground. And so that's our role of extension here in Wayne County. And we're very fortunate in this county to have all three pillars of the university here, and as extensive as they are. So as far as the spotted lanternfly and really any invasive disease or pest that's facing our growers, our county is really uniquely equipped to deal with these types of pressures. Fortunately, our county has a long-standing program called the Integrated Pest Management Program that allows our growers to have on-farm one-on-one interactions with myself or some of my hired help. And we're very fortunate that our county commissioners have continued to support this program, as well as receiving support from federal integrated pest management grants from USDA NIFA. With this program, again, that one-on-one interaction on the farm allows this transfer of information to occur very rapidly to the people that need it most. And so taking the information that Ashley just talked about, the type of resources that she's referred to, and carrying that right to the grower, making sure that that information is in their hands is critically important in response time for dealing with pests like the spotted lanternfly. When we think about, some of the things that Ashley had talked about in educating the public, educating you all, as landowners, as business owners, as officials, it really, comes down to being able to make this real. And I think that the 3D printed models that Ashley talked about are really, just an optimal example of an extension teaching tool that not only are you now able to utilize, but that you're able to share with those around you. So when we think of the IPM program and how that fits into this, the challenge of new invasive pests, it really is kind of the optimization of a land grant university where we have stakeholders and clientele who are buying into this type of education, and not only education, but those relationships often result in on-farm research that is critically important to understanding the impact of some of these new and invasive pests. So I know that time here is short today, and there's a lot of information to be explained and shared. But of course, any questions that we can provide at the local level, that we can provide answers to, or at the state level, obviously we're always accessible. But just did want to kind of bring that perspective of what the county has available, and that we are equipped and ready to continue to deal with pests like the spotted lanternfly, and of course happy to help you with any other of your challenges and issues that may be facing in your landscapes and properties, throughout the county as well. So with that, appreciate your time and attention here today, and then allowing us to be guests and talk about this new invasive pests. Thank you.
If the two of you have time, we'd like to open up questions.
Thank you for coming today. Appreciate that. I guess I have a couple questions. First is, what do you do if I find one in my house? Do I contact somebody? Is there a QR code that I can scan and report it? Then my second question would be, why are they in concentrated areas around? It seems like the bigger cities and areas like that, maybe according to your map. Those are my two questions.
So first, this has actually gone through a rapid change in the past 6 months in terms of reporting. Since we are in Wayne County or Holmes County, we are not a quarantine county yet with active infestation. So you should report if you see spotted lanternfly. This is not the case with all counties. And that's part of the reason why there has been a change in the past, actually month. I think that's when they actually put it all into play. So you can't call a number anymore. You can't really scan a well, you probably could do a QR code, but they don't have a QR code that they are offering up. So you need to just type in Ohio Department of Agriculture spotted lanternfly, and it will actually redirect you to a general link for all invasive species, reports essentially. And, I'm forgetting the name of this website. Do you guys have it off the top of your head? Yeah, it's hooked into ArcGIS, so basically they're streamlining it because they're getting completely overloaded with reports from Cleveland, from Cincinnati, and of course, ODA is like, yeah, we know, we don't need that anymore. In terms of aggregation, so two things. There's a lot of things actually. So first of all, we have a little bit of a reporting bias, right? So if you're in a city, there's going to be a higher likelihood that there's going to be more eyes. And then, oh, there's spotted lanternfly, and they're going to keep seeing it. The other piece of the puzzle here is it's human mediated. So the transport or movement of spotted lanternfly is, by right now, the literature says it's human mediated transport. Well, those are also our hubs where we're getting lots of transport coming in and out. Now, why do we see specific aggregations like what I showed in that video earlier on, where you can have thousands or hundreds of spotted lanternfly in one place? Well, there's just been an isolation of a pheromone that is produced by spotted lanternfly that causes them to aggregate in really high numbers, which is basically they smell each other and they want to be around each other. Does that answer your question?
Could you clarify the damage that they're causing? Are they eating the plants or what are they doing that's bad that we're worried about?
Yeah, so spotted lanternfly is like a giant aphid, so it's not dissimilar from what you'd expect from an aphid. It's a phloem feeder, so it has a really large stylet, a sharp stylet that it's actually popping into the side of the plant, and it's basically eating that phloem tissue. So it's kind of like a plant bloodsucker, a plant vampire, if you will. That's really what we're seeing. And so a couple here and there isn't going to cause a big issue. It's not, for example, defoliating a plant. That's not what we're seeing. It's more of a plant stressor. So that's where we're going to see that plant have a harder time to make it through situations that might be difficult. So let's say if we deal with a drought condition, a really hard winter, that's where we're going to see a really negative impact because this bug is going to inflict more stress, especially in higher densities. Does that help?
Thanks for coming also, Madison. I guess I have two questions. Do birds like to eat these insects? Can birds help in cleaning up the population a little bit? And secondly, besides grapes, what's another economically valuable crop that they seem to be going after?
Okay, did everybody hear that question, or would you like me to repeat it? Okay, oh, because people online don't hear it. So the first question was, do birds eat spotted lanternflies, and to what degree do they potentially contribute to biological control of this pest? And are there other crops that could be economically impacted by spotted lanternfly, and what would they be? So first, in terms of birds, yes, there's been ongoing research from the Northeast that's indicated that a large number of birds will feed on spotted lanternfly. The bad news is that I'm not going to say that they're going to drop populations. Every little bit helps, right? But that's not necessarily stopping its movement westward. So it depends on how you think about what they're doing. Are they dropping local populations? Yeah. But it is coming at the cost of their health because we are seeing that certain compounds are being sequestered in spotted lanternfly, and that does negatively impact bird health. So in some cases, they'll spit out the spotted lanternfly, they'll kill them and spit them out, which is great. But in some cases, they've actually seen the birds basically get a bad tummy ache. I'm oversimplifying that, I'm not a bird expert, but that's the idea. In terms of economic impacts besides grape production, it's actually fairly limited right now. That's why I say I focus a lot of this on grapes, is because we aren't seeing negative impacts on other crops or commodities. I think an argument could be made that there is some negative impacts on nurseries. So where we're growing kind of hardwoods, for moving them across the United States, those are held for two reasons. Again, we're increasing potentially plant stress on those plants that are already pretty stressed, and also moving spotted lanternfly around. And there's also some evidence that you're gonna get a minimal impact, maybe on crops like kiwi or hops.
Actually, in the pictures of the egg masses, they're pretty large. Are those the product of more than one land fly, or is that a single fly's production?
So a single lanternfly will produce an egg mass containing between 35 to 50 eggs, and that is one egg mass produced by one female. So about a half an inch to about 2 inches in size, or 2 inches in length.
Thanks. Yeah, back at the core, you do a DWR code and a number. You're saying they're not good at all at this point?
So that one might work, but that's because we did it. That's because Ohio Extension did it. That's not because of ODA. So I can't, what we've done is create our own QR codes and links with that information. But if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's gonna direct you to ODA. It's not gonna direct you to the report area. So it will indirectly move you to that spot. Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, Ashley and Frank, an appreciation for your taking time today to speak with us. We would like to have the symbol with the rotary wheel along with the rotary four-way test on the back, made for us by students at the Village Network. Thank you. Thank you. I had a summer job working for ODA, and that was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. I was surveying for insects too. Next week, I think we will continue with the high level of quality that we've had today. Dr. Jim Tu, if you've been a member of the club long enough, you heard of him once before. I thought it was interesting, and his topic will be, don't you ever get stung. A reminder, we have a youth exchange meeting tonight, or today after a meeting, and otherwise, we stand adjourned.